Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. Today is Wednesday. It is December the 3rd. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate all of you. I had a kind of a special morning this morning. My wife had homemade tortillas or something to that effect, and she made breakfast tacos, and she brought them in. And I got some really good news from one of my buddies who just had a baby, and that's pretty exciting stuff. Like, new people are being born, and wives are doing cool things in the kitchen and bringing homemade food, and all that put me in a great mood, which is not always the case. I'm also laughing about sort of this ridiculous interview that went on Fox News last night, so we're going to talk about that as well. I've got a smorgasbord of interesting things that are happening in the world that I want to make sure that we're all kind of aware of, and they go the gamut of a special election that happened in Tennessee, so maybe a bellwether of how things could go for the midterms. Probably not in this case. I think they ran the worst possibility. Some CDC information coming out, and I'm seeing almost all of the mainstream media. Top story of the day is crying about hepatitis B vaccines being rolled off the childhood schedule. God forbid a sexually transmitted disease vaccine not pop up in an infant in the first 24 hours of life, relevant to new babies and stuff. So there's that. Money being available in this new Trump account, which is going to be a market-based index fund, it sounds like, that will be able to give incentivization to Americans to have babies, but I don't see that going really well. And the people who are rolling it out, God bless them, but man, they are some weird looking folks. So we're going to talk about the Dell family. Let's see. I got a couple other things on there. Trump talking about tariffs. Looks like there's some real scary stuff in the Supreme Court. So there's a whole bunch of things that I want to kind of touch on. And then, of course, we're also going to talk about anonymous sources, which is the title of today's episode. The anonymous sources always lie. I've got some real spicy inside baseball from the FBI. Talked to about 4 or 5 different quote unquote anonymous sources. They're not anonymous to me, by the way. They're just anonymous to you. And if I told you their name, you wouldn't know them anyway. That's the funny part about it. That's what anonymous sources are. People that I know, that I have vetted, that reporters have known and vetted. They bring you information. They don't tell you their name because they don't want to lose their job. It's not crazy. That's the way it's always been. So there are degrees of journalistic, let's say, integrity. And when we're talking about someone who is, quote unquote, on our side, like Miranda Devine, who has, I think, been very, very fair. She's actually been really reserved, kind of going after the guys that are running our FBI. I think she's been reserved about going after the Trump administration in general. I think she wants them to succeed, as do I. I'm just going to be really obvious and honest that they're not. And I got the biggest piece of information that it doesn't seem that big until you realize what it says about the culture that these clowns have created inside what I think is the most dangerous part of our federal government. And I'm going to actually probably prove that to you if I can, with some Supreme Court arguments, because all of the same issues that happened through the Biden administration that people were screaming about, they continue to be an ongoing problem. And I don't see Congress addressing them with serious legislation. What I see is people are doing BS hearings and trying to distract us with aliens. So I've got an alien story as well, because Fox News is now doing aliens. Aliens are mainstream. That's how you know the distraction is legit. Before we even do our first ad, which is not something I normally do, I want to go to that vibe, that feeling that I had about getting homemade breakfast. Is that weird? I think it might be a little bit weird for you, but I think you guys are going to appreciate the energy level that it brings. I sent this to my buddy who just had a new baby. I'm like, hey man, no sleep, no rest for the weary, 18 more years of paying for another human being and feeding another mouth, but a new baby? Hell yeah, bro. That's what I felt like. So that's where this energy comes from. And it was also in response to a breakfast taco. So let's do that first.
Why is it always, what are you doing and never do?
Dude, I got some fucking banana bread at work today, dude. Hell yeah. My mom told me if I wait for things, like, good things will happen to me, dude. And fucking I waited for some things and I got some banana bread at work today, dude. Hell yeah. So it just goes to show that waiting for things is, like, worth it. But there's a lot of bad things in this world, dude. Like fucking skunks, dude. Hell no. Scratching your eye, but it's still fucking itchy, dude. Hell no. The fucking tub, dude. Hell no. Like getting paid not a lot of money, dude, for fucking working? Hell no! For banana bread and fucking work, dude! Hell yeah! Hell yeah, bro! Hell yeah! Banana bread! Hell yeah! Banana bread! Hell yeah! Banana bread! Hell yeah, bro!
Yeah, new babies, banana bread. There's some good things in the world. I don't want you guys to think that I just sit here and rage out and hate on things. Is that really silly? That's the kind of guy that I am. I'm a little bit silly sometimes. And sometimes I just wake up and I'm like, hell yeah, this is what's going on right now. All right, let's read for one of our sponsors who are good people. We're going to have Skip on the program in a little bit to talk about some of the data breaches that go on during the holiday season, because God forbid you get scammed during that time. Their website is patriot-protect.com/Kyle, patriot-protect.com/KYLE. There's a link in the show description. Check that out. If you've seen that people are using any number of things from Gmail to ChatGPT, if you have AT&T, if you use DoorDash, if you have Ring, if you have any of these like major services, Comcast, you have a critically elevated risk level in the market because you've given them information about yourself. You've given them financial information, your address, your phone number, your email address, et cetera, et cetera. You've probably created a password with them. In the last few months alone, we've confirmed major data breaches and security breaches in each of those individual companies and more. They're ongoing. This is a constant sort of fight back and forth. The founder of Patriot Protect, Skip, told me that it's basically like an arms race, and with AI, it's become nuclear, if you guys will. These leaks expose names and email addresses and phone numbers and behavioral patterns that scammers can rely on to target you. These data brokers will publish these things basically for free or for clicks only, and they'll share who you are, your home, your family, your habits, your age, your income, your online footprint, all kinds of things that can be used to connect you. By the way, I found FBI Director Kash Patel's personal phone number on the internet the other day using these data broker websites. They're that good or they're that bad. Take your pick. If you want to hide yourself from scammers, the solution is to have something like Patriot Protect. Remove your personal data from the interwebs. They can wipe out things from Google and all the major scammer sites, these people search websites where cyber criminals go to stalk new victims. You don't need to be in that category. You don't need to be one of those new victims. Go ahead and check them out. They're constantly scanning and deleting your stuff. It is an annual service if you guys set it up, the search and destroy protocol, constantly grabbing things off the internet and pulling them away from the scumbags in Nigeria or India or Pakistan or Bangladesh or wherever these idiots are at trying to take your stuff. You don't want to be taken. It's dollars a month. And you guys can check them out at patriot-protect.com/KYLE. 15% off is the normal deal. If you guys missed the Black Friday thing, it's still not particularly expensive. So check them out now and, protect yourself. Otherwise, you could always regret that in a really big way. Everybody knows somebody who's been scammed, right? All right, let's get into today's program with a little bit of energy and some banana bread and some new babies and some homemade tacos. Hell yeah, here we go. All right, so I don't want to get accused of burying the lead because there was a big interview, and by big, I just mean it was silly, and we did a whole show on this. I thought that the folks over at the FBI would have gotten the message. The first rule of holes, what is it? We had Steve Friend on previously, and he said it. The first rule of holes is put down the shovel, stop digging. And then the second sort of corollary that goes along with that in politics is if you are explaining, then you're losing. I put on the screen something kind of funky. That is a sort of an artist's rendition, kind of a feminized version of Jesus Christ and the Sacred Heart with a cross. And then some sort of like human multi-hand Hindu elephant thing. Forgive me for not knowing what it is. It has a swastika on the hand. That's pretty cool. That's an ancient symbol. Whenever I hear the FBI director talk about prayer, I start wondering who, in fact, does this guy pray to? And so it made me realize that people are saying words and they think they have a certain meaning and they're trying to convey something. But if you know enough about the background, you're like, oh, what you're saying is completely illogical. It's a bit ridiculous. And I think that you're trying to lie to me by saying things that you want me to interpret falsely. There was a whole bit that Louis C.K. did. He's one of my favorite comedians, stand up. And he talked about the thing that he hated most on the internet and on the news, when a nice lady from CNN with pretty hair, I'm almost quoting him directly, it was an opening bit, says the N-word. And he doesn't mean the actual saying of the N-word. He says, quote unquote, N-word, the N-word, because it makes you say the N-word in your head. And he hated that. I see a lot of this nonsense where somebody is trying to make me think that we think the same things. Because when I put out my prayers, I know exactly who I'm praying to. But I don't know who you're praying to if you're an unmarried, childless Hindu guy that runs the FBI. I also realize that you don't even know what it is you're saying. So rather than bury the lead, which is what I got accused of the other day, and I don't want to do that to you, I'm going to play you where we're going to end up for today's show. And maybe the most ridiculous statement. This is about the so-called rudderless ship. This is a gift that keeps on giving. I've had more reporters call me up and say, hey, Seraphin, did you have something to do with this anonymously sourced report that Miranda Devine used? And I went, no. And then I had a guy from CBS and he goes, I've had people ask me the same thing about you because they know that I know you. And I was like, I'm pretty sure Seraphin would just say it out loud. And I'm like, can we be totally honest and real? I actually think that the way that Intel analysts write up their reports are a little bit retarded and a little bit gay. So I wouldn't waste my time with something like that. I would just come out and say, you suck. You wore a jacket that was a size medium female. You waited for patches. Like if I, the stories of this, you screamed, cried on a phone call in front of 200 FBI employees and nobody respects you. So when someone tells you anonymous sources are always lying, this is the funniest part. What I've realized is the dude that runs the FBI might not know that all the sources that the FBI has are anonymous. I'll just say that one more time. Every source that the FBI quotes in all of their documentation are listed by an S and a number. It's an alphanumeric. They don't have names. They've been anonymized to the point where people on the same squad do not know the names of these sources. They're anonymous. All sources that law enforcement uses, most generally speaking, are anonymous unless they screw up and put the name in, and then they put in like a bracket or a parentheses afterwards inside their written report that says protect identity. Those people almost always are exposed because protect identity is a thing that people immediately just discard and then they just give it out. So that's why the FBI, as an agency, and almost all law enforcement, they have code names. They have alphanumeric numbers to identify. They anonymize sources for the protection of the source. I want you to consider that when you hear this softball answer question series, because we're going to go to this Laura Ingraham interview towards the end of the show, and every bit of it was a cover job. My guess is that Laura Ingraham got yelled at by Fox News for having Miranda Devine on and giving credibility to the credible report that Miranda Devine did that the FBI is a rudderless ship. And so they totally didn't know what Kash Patel was going to say, and they totally didn't have like pre-written chyrons. Notice he'll say it, and the chyrons are almost in real time.
Yeah, look, anonymous sources always lie, results don't. And I'll get to the results in a second. These anonymous sources were individuals from the Comey Ray era that weaponized the Department of Justice and cratered the public trust in the FBI to something that was at levels that has never been seen. 35% public trust in the FBI when we came in 10 months ago. And now we're to believe that these anonymous sources are the ones accusing this FBI, the most successful in history, of being rudderless. Let's just look at the results. If we were so rudderless and we sent our mission out into the country and around the world, how would we have arrested 25,000 violent felons this year alone? That's twice as many as last year alone. How would we have arrested 35% more spies from Russia, China, and Iran than last year alone? How would we have found 6,000 children and identified them? That's up 22% from last year alone. We have taken down criminal networks and those that wish to do harm to our children. We have arrested in the 764 category, the nihilist violence extremist network, a 590% increase on those who wish to prey on our children. Those are just some examples, and I haven't even gotten to the monumental success on fentanyl, where we shut off precursors from China and have seized enough fentanyl, 22% increase this year alone, enough to kill 127 million Americans. We're crushing violent crime. We're defending the homeland. When Dan and I got here, it was a rudderless ship. But we re-executed this mission. We defanged the weaponization that corrupted it. We jettisoned those like these anonymous sources in this report reporting, and all they have to talk about is anonymous sources and jackets and leather patches. They can have that all day long. The mission of this FBI is to serve the American people, and we are doing it at a level that has never been done before because of the leadership we have here, and thanks to President Trump's sweeping victory that demanded this place be rid of weaponization and put it back on a course to prosecuting criminals, investigating criminals, and putting away terrorists. And that's what we are doing every single day here.
Somebody did not tell him that he should have let the host talk. She looked like she was going to explode with the words she had to say. The funniest thing in the world, he got his own stats wrong. The Fox News people got it right. 490% increase in 764 nihilistic, we usually say nihilistic, but whatever, nihilistic violent extremist things. And it's like, oh, okay. Well, how many arrests is that? I see the meme of the squawking duck that runs after the guy. It's like, how much is it? It's 7 arrests. That's what 490. He said 590, but whatever. Let's just use made up words. It's 7 arrests. You've made 7 arrests in a category that didn't previously exist because those people are now suddenly of age, and you've got United States attorneys that are willing to go and prosecute someone who's 18, 19, or 20 years old. That's what you're celebrating? 7 arrests? You're celebrating 25,000, 28,000 violent felon arrests. Those are almost exclusively done through the ICE category because what they're doing is they're claiming the same stats that ICE is doing as they go out there and they arrest people and they're deporting people. This is actually like, it's not that hard and you don't have to fake it. He just said that the FBI had a historically low, I think, what did he say? Like 35% approval rating? It's 36 to 42, depending on which survey you go to. They've increased it by maybe as little as 1 percentage point. And those Comey, Ray era, anonymous sources, I'm pretty confident Kash actually thinks it's just me and my guys. I think that's what's going on. And yeah, I did work there during the Ray era. Do you know why you have a job, Director Patel? Oh, because dudes like Kyle Seraphin came forward and told everybody all of the nonsense that you've been involved in. I've got some really, really amusing stories that I got yesterday. It took me about 3 seconds to confirm it with 2 other sources around the country. And that is going to be from an anonymous source to you, but people that I've known for about a decade. It's like a quick phone call. I go, hey man, I heard that the FBI was unable to get a single applicant to the most prestigious job in the entire FBI. And that is the Assistant Director of the Criminal Division, CID. Hit it out to a buddy at headquarters. Oh yeah, I just checked the website. That's true. Nobody applied to the best job in the FBI, the highest ranked position in the most prestigious part of the FBI, which is doing criminal investigative work. Nobody wants it. They can't get people to run the field offices, the special agent in charge, which is the most prestigious job that it takes you from being a GS-15 into the senior executive service, that deep state sort of level. Nobody wants to do that. Why would it be? I'm going to explain all of that for you. We're going to get into like all the stories, but I just wanted you to hear and I wanted you to consider that when somebody tells you something and they use words, they want you to think something. You're like, oh, anonymous sources, they can't be trusted. Really? The fact of the matter is, of course they can be trusted. Just because we trust no one doesn't mean that there are not people that we know who can be trusted. And of course, I go back to my my favorite because we're going to talk about some X-Files type stuff today as well. And there's the Cancer Man on the screen, which is the #1, my favorite anonymous source. Okay, so with all of that being said, and that being the prequel, if you will, and I know that took a long time to get through, but I think there was some substance in there of the actual show. Let's do this story here. I think this is an interesting thing that I've been kind of staying away from. This is the story of a special election in Tennessee. I've got another election-related story and another awful female candidate that makes me want to puke. Donald Trump won the district by 22 points. This win was done by Matthew Van Epps. He's the projected winner as of last night. I saw this in the evening, and it's only like a 9-point victory. Special elections always have low turnout, so you're going to get the most motivated of the base anyhow. I was hopeful that this lady didn't win, and I didn't actually want to throw any sort of gasoline on her fire, if you will. 99% of the vote is counted. Van Epps beat the Democrat candidate, a woman named Afton Behn, B-E-H-N, by about 9 points, according to the AP. Of course, Trump had a much bigger victory. Donald Trump apparently threw his endorsement in there. This lady had a significantly negative public presence. She was a defund the police type. She just seems kind of awful. She's done all this weird activist stuff. She went and like parked herself inside of a congressman's, office and got dragged out screaming by state police. So, of course, The left is going to defend their own. This is not dissimilar, by the way. This interview that I'm about to show you is not dissimilar to Kash Patel's interview with Laura Ingraham. And what I mean is that there are obviously sacred cows. Let's do a Hindu reference, right? There are obviously sacred cows that each of these networks have, and they do their best to protect them with everything they have. And that means they go out there and they ask a question that pre-bunks the thing that they're about to show as evidence, and then they let the other person sort of dogpile on. Sean Hannity is the king of this. He does like, I just want to say, like, I know you're the best and you do so many good things and this is all the stuff and here's my explanation for what it is and I've already told you what my answer is and now is that your answer too? And they're like, yeah, you're absolutely right, Sean. Like, that's the answer. Here's what it is. Watch that tactic being used here on the CNN. This clip is gross because they try to debunk something, which is why this lady lost, which is that she just said awful things about the place she wanted to go represent. That doesn't work. People don't want to be told that you hate everything about the place that you live. The answer to that should be move. Don't become our congresswoman and try to change it. Anyway, here you go. Pre-bunking, CNN, sacred cows.
I do want to ask you about an attack line from Republicans, because this is a comment you made in 2020 about Nashville. It's gotten a lot of attention in the race. Let's listen to this.
I hate the city. I hate the bachelorettes. I hate the pedal taverns. I hate country music. I hate all of the things that make Nashville, apparently, an it city to the rest of the country, but I hate it.
I know you said those comments were taken out of context, but I want to ask you about it because I'm wondering, do you think it was a mistake to say that?
Once again, I was a private citizen. Nashville is my home. Do I roll my eyes at the bachelorette parties and the pedal taverns that are blocking my access to my house? Yeah, every Nashvilleian does. But this race has always been about something bigger. It's about families across Middle Tennessee that are getting crushed by rising prices, while Washington politicians and billionaires argue about this type of nonsense.
It's a pretty slick transition that she does. Everybody hates them. Well, probably not. That's why they're in business. Like, there are things that I hate about going into Austin. I just don't go into Austin. And guess what? Kyle Seraphin isn't trying to represent Austin on the city council, and I'm not trying to run for Congress there. If I want to run for something that I hate, there would have to be a transition that I would like to see it roll back to. That was the pitch that the Make America Great movement was, right? It's like there's a nostalgic feeling of what it could be. We remember it being better. We've declined. But the decline that she's talking about is that, like, there's industry and there's a nightlife, and she is irritated by bachelorette parties. It's not a really good look, and it wasn't a good pitch, and it didn't resonate with the voters, even in a smaller special election. So thank God. But trying to protect horrible, what do we call them? Awful, affluent, white, female liberals, the awful AWFL types. That's a sacred cow for the mainstream media. And it's almost as sacred as the thing that they picked up in, I guess, 2020, the defense of vaccines for children. And this is a really weird one for me. This is maybe the weirdest pivot that I've seen mainstream news do, because we're always seeing these people change sides. When I said yesterday that they're both basically, the same party, that both parties are going the same direction, one of them just goes more aggressively and one goes slower. Isn't that true? Don't we see the flip-flop all the time? And there's no particular reason why. I will tell you this, in my lifetime, and I'm 43, so that can give you relevance and time frame. In my lifetime, the quote unquote anti-vaccine parents, trying not to have their children have childhood vaccines crowd has gone from the crunchy granola, loony leftist, Berkeley, Oregon, Washington state types. And you guys know exactly who I'm talking about. The Birkenstock, free parenting, self-guided education, like Montessori is too structured for me kind of thing, moms. That was the people that did it. And now it's like the hard right, homeschool, homestead, the government is trying to steal everything from us, so we're trying to get off the grid parents. And we actually have more in line with them, which is why I don't think America is lost. I just think America is lost at the federal level. I actually think that we have far more in common with some of our quote unquote liberal counterparts. And if we could just focus in on those things, we might actually have this country divest from the centralized government. For some reason, they think that government is the answer, except government is doing all the things that they used to hate. They used to actually be liberals, which is the funniest thing in the world. It's the saddest thing, I guess. And that's where that rise of the progressive left, the ones who are telling you, like we heard Jennifer Welch say yesterday, that they're morally better than you. Well, like everybody believes they're morally better than the other people. That's why they do the things they do. The question is what is your structure that you're operating out of? I've got a Welch clip again that I'll play a little bit later on, and I think it'll actually prove my point even further because it's just like not even subtle racism. CDC advisors could reverse the newborn hepatitis B vaccine recommendations. This is a now sacred cow for the political left. And it's also something that they're worried about with COVID vaccines and whether we're going to see that announced. That's all relevant right now as we go into the flu season. And so people are getting sick. People are spending more time indoors. There's more time with heaters on, et cetera, et cetera. The hepatitis B vaccines are given at birth, and they've essentially eliminated the disease in kids. But it's not that prevalent in kids anyway. A vote this week could upend the success of these programs. So this is always framed as we're going backwards. Remember, progressives want to move forward with whatever the hell that means. But amusingly, like I said, this used to be a massive, hard leftist position that you shouldn't force these things on kids because they're corporations, they're anti-government control of your health, my body, my choice. All of that got thrown out the window and reversed during the COVID stuff. So we still continually adjudicate the same problems from 2020 on in the Biden administration. Here we go. A group of advisors from the CDC have prepared to vote on whether the agency should scrap a long-standing recommendation that every baby get a Hep B vaccination within 24 hours of birth. This shot, which is universally recommended for newborns in the United States since the early 90s. How did people ever live before the early 90s? None of you should be alive. None of you should be alive. It's credited with driving down acute cases of hepatitis B infections in kids by 99%. This reminds me of the Kash Patel numbers. We've increased it by almost 500%, from 2 to 5. We've driven it down from almost nothing to almost nothing. The virus, which can be passed from mother to baby during childbirth, could lead to liver disease and early death. There is no cure. And despite this, by the way, they test moms for this. I don't know if you guys have had like a pregnant woman in your life recently, but they test moms for all these diseases. It's the same thing why they give the little drops in the eyes. It's a little antibiotic to make sure that kids don't have childhood blindness, but they test the moms for staph infections and sexually transmitted diseases before they ever go in. So they already know who's at risk. You don't have to have it, but everybody gets it unless you have a home birth. Just saying, home birth was the way to go. Maybe the first time, if you're scared, you go to the hospital. But if you have the wherewithal to recommend a home birth with a solid midwife that has a real medical background, like our midwife was awesome, and she was a prior labor and delivery nurse. I'm kind of getting off on a tangent, but just as a plug for midwifery and an ancient knowledge of women who had babies in caves for millennia. It turns out you don't really need all that much to have a baby. We used to just joke about it when I was on an ambulance. You know, the worst case scenario is you have to catch a baby in an ambulance. It's not particularly comfortable, but as long as the heat's turned up, you can catch a baby anywhere. And people have for literally all of mankind until recently, where we started thinking it had to be done in a hospital. Again, the pre-hospital, the midwife, the home birth types, they used to be all the crunchy granola lefties, right? They used to all be hippies. In any case, this virus can be passed down from mother to child during childbirth. Despite the success, the Hep B vaccine has become the latest target of skeptics who question whether the benefits of the shots outweigh potential risk. Is that not a reasonable question? Just out of curiosity? Can we not ask questions like, hey, that baby's freaking tiny. Are we really going to put a shot with like any amount of foreign substance in? They just entered the world. Why do we have to go in there and penetrate somebody with a jab with all this stuff? Is it really helping? Is it solving a problem that everybody might face? Or is it solving a problem that's such an acute minority that we could actually screen out that and handle people on an acute basis? And why can't it wait till they have some weight on them? I mean, I don't know if you guys know much about babies either, but again, having a friend who just had one, having recently, I've got a 2-year-old, so it's fairly frequent, and I've had 4 babies in my life. They drop like a ton of body weight within the first couple of days, and then they have to put it all back on. Are we really going to start like insulting is what we call it, insulting that immune system immediately? It makes people who are rational go like, hey, I got some more questions. Yeah, I don't think you should be demonized for that. This says a vaccine given on day 1 has a risk of neonatal fever, which causes more interventions like blood work to determine the cause of the fever, said Dr. Kirk Millihan, a pediatric cardiologist who practices at the Driscoll Children's Hospital in Corpus Christi, Texas. He's a member of the CDC's advisory community and part of the Committee on Immunization Practices, which since June has been replacing all the members. RFK Jr. has. I find this really interesting If you even want to ask questions about quote unquote established science as we learn more things. I mean, even in my own lifetime, we couldn't detect fetal heart rates as early as we can today. There's so much more we know about embryology, to the point where when my buddy was going through med school, and that's when I came out of college in about the year 2004, he goes into med school, and I remember his report back to me going through med school was, embryology is essentially the study of magic. That's how little we know about why things go on. That's 15 years ago, 20 years ago. It turns out, like, we learn a lot. Look at your cell phone from 20 years ago, if you even had one. Look at the computer systems you're working on. Consider the way that you get your news. Consider the way that the entire world has evolved. Are we really supposed to be stuck in 1990s accepted information? It just seems really traumatically stupid to me. And of course, like I said, it's a sacred cow. They can't help it. There's two stories on it. I've got another one from CBS on their Health Watch. RFK Jr. wants to delay the hepatitis B vaccine. Here's what patients need to know. And then they immediately went to an emotional story. They immediately go to the worst thing that could happen in a place that doesn't have anything to do with you. And people who probably don't have the same sort of access to nutrition or education or anything else. Because where do they go? Anchorage, Alaska, and a tribal-owned hospital is going to be the anecdotal story that leads the CBS piece. Working out of a tribal-owned hospital in Anchorage, Alaska, liver specialist Brian McMahon has spent decades treating the long shadow of hepatitis B. When the vaccine became available in the 1980s, he saw the virus claim young lives in Western Alaskan communities with stunning speed. So like really rural people in a place in the middle of nowhere. Got it. One of his patients was 17 years old when he first examined her for stomach pain, discovered she'd developed liver cancer caused by Hep B, and just weeks before she was set to graduate from high school as a valedictorian, she died before the ceremony. Do you guys feel the emotional grab? It's so strong, right? He often thinks of an 8-year-old boy who showed no signs of illness until he complained of pain, which turned out to be a rapidly growing tumor on his liver. McMahon can still hear the boy's voice as he was moaning in pain, saying, "I know I'm going to die soon." And we were all crying. The boy died a week later. And therefore, in a totally unrelated case, in people who live in modern society and don't live in like rural Aleutian, Alaska, make sure you do this thing. God forbid you even question it. Because in the 80s, this guy knew some kids who died, 2 of them, in his practice, which apparently spans decades, like 40 or 50 years. All of this stuff is wild to me because we're not allowed to ask that question, or we're not supposed to ask that question. Here's the question asking about COVID vaccines, which has also recently come up. I've got a couple of stories here, or a couple of little letters that were written talking about VAERS, talking about the possibility that there were actually children who died in the original COVID studies that were used to justify them, and they ignored them. And of course, the media ran cover for that too. This is, I think, the morning show that goes on. I think it's CBS based on the icon I'm seeing. This is a woman who's going to tell you that it's super dangerous and you should totally vaccinate your kid with things no matter how young they are. Starting at 6 months old, they might get COVID, even though like basically nobody who was 6 months old got COVID. I don't know. Did you guys live through 2020 and 2021?
No data is given, but you scare the bejesus out of people when you do a headline like this. How seriously should this be taken?
Well, until we have data, for example, autopsy data, medical record data, what he is quoting are numbers from the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, what we call VAERS for short. And I could go in today and say, I got a flu shot, my hair turned purple.
Yeah.
You'd have to go in and actually prove. And so the idea here is to capture as many potential side effects and adverse events as possible. But you still have to drill down and do the work of proving that the vaccine caused the death. And there is no data that has been released to show that. But I want to point out, over 2,000 kids died from COVID infection over the last several years. And so we know that for sure.
But you don't know of any child that's died from the COVID vaccine.
We've never seen any evidence, definitive evidence, that a child has died from the COVID vaccine.
So I didn't know kids were still getting COVID vaccines. I thought, I just got my booster a couple weeks ago, but I thought it was for people over 65 or people who had some kind of medical issue that were immunocompromised. Should kids still be getting the COVID vaccine?
Well, it depends on who you ask. If you turn to the professional medical societies, whether it's the American American Academy of Pediatrics, the Infectious Disease Society of America, and others, they are recommending that children over the age of 6 months be getting their primary series of the COVID vaccine. Scientifically, in terms of what you want for protection, you want to be getting your immunity from the vaccine first before you encounter the virus to prevent those worst side effects of having a COVID infection. So things like myocarditis, you're much more likely to have that inflammation of the heart muscle with an actual infection.
So why does Dr. Prasad say that the benefits of vaccinating children are unclear?
There's no science to back up that claim. I think, unfortunately, COVID has been politicized since really the beginning of the pandemic, since 2020.
Yeah, let's just cut away from that. That lady also just cited the American Academy of Pediatrics, which has transgender guidelines, which say that they should affirm the gender that a child as young as possible claims. Consider the source. That's a not anonymous source. That's an on-record source, that lady, citing on-record sources of people saying wildly crazy stuff that none of us have to listen to. And she went, everybody should get the COVID vaccine, even though you all lived through that crazy psyop. I've actually got a little interesting video that I found, and I didn't know where I was going to work it in, but I have it right now. And it is the psyop that these things engage in. All of these stories use the same psyop. Social media actually uses it in a more weaponized way, and it's a lot more subtle. It's pretty on the nose when you're quoting a tribal hospital and 17 and 8-year-olds dying and telling the doctor, I know I'm going to die 40 years ago. That is pretty on the nose when it comes to the emotional hook and the fear, right? Because no parent wants to be in that scenario, and I can totally agree with that. We're going to talk more about that in a second. First, let's go ahead and plug my friends over at Silent. Yeah, it's a shameless plug. That's what we do here. Sometimes we tell you about great products. One of them is the group that's making this. Have you seen their little logo on it? Silent. They're worried about things that you might be worried about. Well, this is a real threat, the real threat of our government, of the big tech corporations, the data brokers, and so on, cyber criminals, take your pick, trying to get a piece of your digital footprint. And you think, oh, well, it doesn't matter where I go. Doesn't it, though? Because they're using it to do all kinds of things, including profile you or even sell that data to our federal law enforcement agencies. slnt.com/KYLE. Use the promo code Kyle to save yourself 15%. This is the same technology used by special operations folks. You can use it to block all the signals, and that includes everything coming out of your wireless devices. Cellular, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, RFID, near-field communication, all of the things that can be used to do what's called ubiquitous technical surveillance. An entire division of the FBI was developed to just follow people based on RFIDs coming out of individual people and finding you without even being seen. If you don't want to have that as a possibility, or you just maybe want peace and quiet when you sit down and you need something that's going to manually keep you from being distracted from family time, my wife sometimes points to it and goes, phone in the Faraday bag, that needs to happen. You promised. It's like, oh yeah, I did. Drop your phone in a silent Faraday sleeve or bag and you will be off the grid. You'll be silent. You'll be available to the people that are in your life that are real. And you will not be available to all the people that might want to track you, to include all the folks like big tech and government and so on and so forth. slnt.com/KYLE. Save yourself 15%. There is free shipping on qualified orders. They are not the cheapest, but they make good stuff, which is the alternative. You can either buy something that doesn't work and costs you very little, or you buy something that costs a little bit more and it actually does. Link in the show description. You guys will always find that there. They're a great sponsor of ours and they make really good products. And I literally have them all over my house now. So I got 2 backpacks sitting behind me that I use to travel with. Check them out. I don't think you'll be disappointed once you get them. All right. They make things overseas and they make things here. Let's talk about tariffs. Should I do the PSYOP thing first? Because I think actually it's kind of relevant. We're going to talk about tariffs in a moment because businesses are doing the thing that I told you yesterday. I just saw this is a New York Times article that came out covering the thing that I hit on yesterday, which is that a bunch of businesses are looking at the Supreme Court and saying, I don't think this tariff thing is going to hold with the Trump administration, which means maybe some things get cheaper again. I don't know. Or all these companies get refunds and then they get to make more profits because they've been eating their profits. We know some of our sponsors have had that issue. I did kind of want to play this PSYOP video because this is the same hook that we see everywhere. It's always the same. It's an emotional appeal. It puts you in a particular mindset, and then they're going to give you, this is the solution, and this is how you do it. This is a dad talking about going through his son's social media feed from what he imagined it would be. And I understand he probably is like an expert on either psychological operations or maybe he worked in advertising. It doesn't really make a difference. The thing he's saying is inevitably true. You can actually go and do this on your own social media feed, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on, I don't know, does Reddit have ads? They must. Whether you're on X, which is where I spend a lot of time because I think that's where the information is. You can even see it on True Social, on Trump's version. Listen to this guy break down the PSYOP and how it actually works, and then you'll realize, like, oh yeah, they're doing this in the mainstream news too, in print, and they're doing it in video journalism.
We'd never really talked about any of this PSYOP stuff. My son is 17. You know, I've educated him on social media. He came into the kitchen the other day. I'll show him. Keep scrolling until you find an ad. Okay, great. You found an ad on your phone. Now go back one. And he's holding his phone in a place I can't see it. I go one short video before the ad. And he's like, okay, I'm looking at it. And I said, is it emotional? And he said, yeah. I said, is it about an animal? He said, yeah. I said, is it about rescuing an animal or saving a person's life? And he said, yeah, it's a dog preventing somebody from getting hit by a car. I said, all right, go one above that. And he thought this was a mentalism trick, like I was doing a magic trick. And he went one above that. And I said, is it violence? He said, yeah, it's a riot. I said, now go one more above that. And he said, okay, you're not going to predict this one. And I said, I probably won't predict what you're looking at, but you're looking at something designed to make you worry about your health. And he said, yeah. So it's like, is something wrong with me now? Did I eat something bad? The world is a dangerous place. I pump up fear. If you pump fear up, you manufacture suggestibility automatically. So you see a couple more violent ones, and then you'll see that ad like, well, we found this baby deer just walked up on our back porch one day and we bottle fed him and we named him Terry and we raised him. And then, it's a time lapse and it shows him growing up and like sleeping in the bed, playing with the dog. And then you scroll and it's like, hey, have you seen these new shoes? They look great. How about this new watch? It's not a human that designed this. It's just like, this gets revenue. Let's optimize for that. And then let's keep measuring. This gets revenue, optimize, revenue, optimize.
We're talking about the idea that we can put you in a particular mindset and that we've weaponized your attention span. I've done programs on this before, and I think all of you understand it. I'm pretty transparent about what we're doing here. I'd like your attention. I like to tell you things that I think are important. I share with you sort of my mental state and what it is that I'm reading and what I'm analyzing. And the trade-off is that we read advertisements here. We'll put an advertisement on for products that pay us, but the only agreement that I have with you is that I will not go and advertise something that I don't use myself. That's the end. I turn away advertisers all the time. They go like, hey, what about this boner pill? And I'm like, no, that's not me. And they're like, what about these awesome supplements? They're for male virility. I'm like, that's not for me. What about the wellness company? What about, can you go out there and do their COVID spike detox thing? And I go, no, that's not for me. It's not for me. So I'm only going to weaponize your attention span for the things that I would actually put my own attention in. That's kind of our deal, And that guy nails it down. We're going to set you up for the uncertainty. We're going to show you that the world is a dangerous place. We're going to tell you that there's violence and all those other things. And by the way, here is the solution. And also, have you thought about new shoes or whatever it is? Now, here's the thing. If somebody came to me and was like, hey, do you want to advertise for this shoe company? It'd be like, well, are they shoes that I actually wear? Is it Ultras? Because I wear those. Like, cool. Okay, fine. Are they Bellevues? Are they boots that I would wear? Right? Are they Rockies? Yeah, okay, fine. And if they're not, I'd be like, I'd have to try them first. I always say that. And it always upsets the guys that do the advertising sales for us. We have an advertising company. They hate it. They're like, can you just agree? Like, can we sell a mattress with you? I'm like, send me the mattress. I actually probably need a new mattress soon. So sure, like I'll check it out. But if it doesn't sleep well, then no, I'm not going to recommend something that doesn't work. Not everybody does that. Just so you guys know, a lot of people don't do that. They just take the money because that's easy. That's what the business model is. I don't feel like my credibility is worth selling that way. So that's kind of funny, which is why you'll see Shield Arms in the show description. I carry Shield Arms products. I actually got one back here, right there. That's a Shield Arms modified Glock 43X with a little dot on top of it. I should lean back here. Point at it. Okay. That Glock 43X has Shield Arms magazine well. It has the mag catch. It has one of their barrels, and it has their extended magazine and all that stuff. So like, I can recommend things that I carry every day. I won't do the other ones. All right, let's talk about importing taxes or importing tariffs and whether or not it's going to stick, because I don't think it is. I've seen the chat say otherwise. You guys just hear me out. Ahead of the tariff ruling, businesses are racing to secure refunds. That's what the New York Times is reporting. This is the thing I told you about Costco dropping in the lawsuit. There's others as well. The Supreme Court has not yet ruled on the legality of the prince of President Trump's sweeping tariffs. But some companies aren't willing to wait. They want to make sure that they secure a speedy and substantial payout if one ends up coming down. Bulk retailers like Costco, the canned tuna company Bumblebee Tuna. I wish I had a soundbite to drop on you from Ace Ventura. That's where my mind immediately went. Bumblebee Tuna. Some of the businesses are racing to get in line to get these tariff refunds, anticipating that the Supreme Court is going to rule against President Trump and force him to return billions of dollars on collective imports. Now, remember, the big deal here is that I think we would have signed off on the okay, charge us tariffs all day long, charge us a consumption tax, because that's what a tariff is. It's a imported product that should cost more because it's coming from overseas, and we make sure that slave labor and cheap manufacturing and countries that manipulate their currency can't sneak in and scoop American companies that are making the same thing. It theoretically, tariffs raise the bar on the Chinesium stuff so that the made in America stuff is more competitive. And so there's not such a huge gap between it. I'll give you an example. I have a brass catcher. Brass catcher is a device that sits on the outside of your magazine or of your ejection port on a rifle. And so whenever I fire a round out of one of my AR-15s, it ejects a piece of spent brass. Now, if I want to minimize my footprint, or I don't want to pick up brass at the range all day, I can put a brass catcher on. I saw one that Pete Hegseth was using on a helicopter, and I'd never seen it before. It comes from a company called Tactical Brass Recovery or Tactical Brass Solutions, something like that. They're like $250. They're made in America. They're made for the military. They've got like plastic and they're lightweight and they have this, milled aluminum thing and they swing out and they're really cool and they're fireproof and all this other kind of great stuff. And so you're like, oh, okay, $250 is more than some people spend on their entire weapon. Not me, but other people. But $250 is not a cheap accessory. And then you find the one from Chinesium. And the Chinesium one is $20 and it'll mount on 2 different rifle systems. For $19.99 today only, you can get that. And I bought one because I wanted to see. For $20, I can check it out. For $250, I better probably put my hands on one and feel it and decide like whether or not I'm going to make that. That's an investment. And so the tariff idea would be that you bump up the cost of some of these Chinesium goods, which if they're making profit on $20, it must mean that it costs very, very little to make. That's wild to me because it has to go through Amazon and all the other crap, right? So in theory, if you bump that up and it was like $80 versus $250, I don't know if that still is it, but like 4, 5x, 20x, that's really hard to overcome that. So theoretically, that's what these tariffs are going to do. The problem is that 1, they may not be legal, and 2, they don't seem to be cutting away our income tax, which is what we were told. Donald Trump made this promise. I think this was yesterday or the day before. And doggone it, this is a wild claim to make. Some of his stuff is so freewheeling and riffing. All it does is tell me Donald Trump is still the guy that wants to crap on a golden toilet, and he wants to sell you a bunch of BS, and he wants to tell you how this is the greatest golf course ever built, and this is the most luxurious hotel that's ever been, and America is the greatest thing ever because we have this thing going on with these tariffs. But like, I don't believe him. I don't think he's actually trying to be factual. I think he's just trying to be Donald Trump. He's defending his policy. It also sounds like a bunch of companies are betting against him. And if they're all betting against him, the odds are is they're probably not wrong. They have a lot of money riding on this, potentially billions of dollars in tariff rebates. Here's Donald Trump making the claim that you're about to not have an income tax, which I'm pretty sure was on the campaign trail too.
And I believe that at some point in the not too distant future, you won't even have income tax to pay because the money we're taking in is so great, it's so enormous that you're not going to have income tax to pay. Whether you get rid of it or just keep it around for fun or have it really low, much lower than it is now, but you won't be paying income tax. We've slashed $1 trillion.
What are you talking about, man? Come on now. It says there's roughly $200 billion that have been collected since the start of this year. You're going to eliminate the American income tax, which is in the tune of trillions of dollars? I don't believe you. I just don't. For a $200 billion net grab coming through tariffs, which we all had to pay through. It's not going to happen. It's not there. It'd be great if it was. I don't know what it would cost. The only way that would happen, and this is why I'm frustrated, this is actually the thing I said yesterday. When I take a shot at the Trump administration, it's not because I didn't like their agenda, it's that it wasn't strong enough or far enough for me. And if you wanted to do the thing that Donald Trump said, if you wanted to actually eliminate the IRS, hallelujah, from your mouth to God's ears. Let that be so, right? Like what is it? What is the Moses movie? So shall it be said, so shall it be written. That would be fantastic. But that's not going to happen. Because the alternative, like the second side of that coin, part one is like, no more IRS. We're going to do it through tariffs. Okay. The other side of that coin, when we flip it over, says you have to eliminate the government by 80+%. There has to be 80% less government because otherwise you cannot do that. And what are they going to do? Are they going to get rid of Social Security as well so I don't have to pay that? Are they going to get rid of the Medicare taxes that I have to pay? No, because that's like the bulk of the federal government too. So we don't believe that if we're honest people and we could do basic math, which is the same reason why we don't believe that 28,000 violent felons were arrested in America. No, you just arrested a bunch of people. Some of them were violent felons. Some of them were just a-hole bricklayers that just like stole someone's identity. Some of them were like crappy framing carpenters that are working on a job site. They got to go. The Trump administration has never learned how to do maybe the most important thing that we learn in sales. Trump is a different kind of guy than I am. 100%. I used to work for the person who was going to be our next story, Michael Dell. I used to work there. And my goal was, as a salesperson, was always under promise and then over deliver. I over delivered in service. I over delivered in product. I over delivered in value. I over delivered in access to me after the sale. I over delivered in every single category I could do because I never wanted to tell you you were going to get something and you got it and then you're disappointed, because that's the thing you're going to remember about me. Trump has never gotten that lesson. And by the way, most of his cabinet also seems to run in that, and even the sub-cabinet positions. They have no idea how to under-promise. And the ones that do it under the "just trust me, bro" banner. I've watched Dan Bongino do this thing. It's awful. It's an awful way to go. Just because you don't see it happening doesn't mean it's not happening. Yeah, it does, dude. You were in the media. You should know that. If it's not happening where we can see it, we don't think it's happening because we don't trust you, because you've now joined the organization of people who do things that are not trustworthy. That's it. It's so simple. Under promise. We're working really hard. We hope you'll see the results. We understand your frustration. That would be the most you should ever say. Or better yet, shut the F up. Just shut your mouth. Stop going on Fox and bragging about things that are not real. It's so bizarre. Trump said he was going to do a special baby account. This sounds awful to me. Everything about this sounds like Social Security for babies. I don't like Social Security as it is. I understand many of you are reliant on that. That's not because it's a good thing. It's just because that's the situation you're in. Social Security was basically the government coming in and saying, you're too dumb to handle your own finances, so we're going to handle them for you. You don't know how to save money, so we're going to do it for you, and we're going to do it massively inefficiently. And if I could opt out of Social Security right now with all the money I've paid in over the last 20-something years of working, 25 years of working, I would do it right now. I would never pay another Social Security check in my taxes, and I would just forego all the money in it. I would do that right now. I would make that deal, and I think a lot of people in my age bracket would do the same. Just please don't. That's not going to happen. We already know that. Okay. The government coming in and telling us they're going to help us with the dumbest thing possible, it makes us kind of scared and sick, because we've seen that all government programs end up kind of just sucking, and they just do. So here's one that's really kind of odd. I chose this picture for a reason. This is CNN's picture. That is Susan and Michael Dell, or Michael and Susan Dell, if you like that convention with the man's name first. And they're going to fund Trump accounts by giving $250 to 25 million US children. $250 is not that much money. But I don't know what happened to this lady. By the way, she was an absolute knockout in the 90s when she didn't do 90s surgeries. And I don't like to comment on, I just find this like really, really unsettling. And this video is going to unsettle you if you're watching. Shameless plug if you're not watching. Let me just go ahead and break away from it real quick. If you're not watching, this is one of those things that you actually just have to see. This woman looks like she's turned herself into a cartoonish Stepford wife, like fembot. And I'm not trying to be mean about it, but like she looks like the ultimate 90s surgery. Don't know why she did it. And she was a beautiful lady, and I wish she would have aged more beautifully like that. This is just like weird surgery. So if you're not seeing that, you're not seeing it because you're listening on the audio like Apple, or you're listening on iHeartRadio, and you should be listening on Spotify. We don't make any more money on Spotify, but the experience is better. KyleSerafinshow.com. That's the best thing you can do over there. If you're watching on one of the video platforms, great. We really appreciate you. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Make sure that you are watching over on Rumble and giving us a thumbs up. That puts us on the leaderboard. Watch on YouTube. Give us a thumbs up. It boosts us in the algorithm. Drop a comment if you're so inclined. That's cool too. I respond to most. And if you're listening on X, we don't get any money there, but we appreciate you being there. Like I can't even tell people because X's numbers are so bad. But I appreciate all of you guys watching on the video channel, and you may hear a Spotify ad right now. Boop. Okay, so let's do this. This is really, I'm not trying to be mean. This is legitimately unsettling. This video messed with me. When I saw it, I was like, this is bad AI. This is like weird bad AI. I don't want to set it up any further than this, but you guys, I wanted to prepare you for the visual incoming. Trump accounts, $6.5 million, super generous. Weird surgery.
This is really exciting.
Absolutely. It's a very special moment.
We're making a $6.25 billion investment in America's kids through our charitable funds.
Next year, every American child will be able to get an investment account powered by Invest America.
We've seen what happens when a child gets even a small financial head start. Their world expands.
The real power of these accounts is that anyone can contribute. Parents, relatives, friends, everyone can help shape a child's future.
To philanthropists, companies, community leaders, if you want to be part of something truly meaningful for our kids, for our communities, for our country, join us.
And to parents and caregivers, stay tuned and get ready to activate your child's account. Every contribution can grow over the years, just like your child.
Together, we can make possibility something every child can count on.
And that's a future worth investing in.
All right, all that's super weird. It's a really generous thing to do to give $6.25 billion away. I'm sure there's a tax incentive, but like good on Michael Dell for doing that. So let's acknowledge that. And good on Michael Dell and Susan Dell for being married for as long as they've been married. I just wish women would not do that thing that they do. It's just like her entire upper face doesn't move. It's so unnatural. And I wish we could have people age gracefully. I do blame society. I don't necessarily blame her for that. It's just with all that money, it's such a crazy thing to see. It's like those eyes. Why? All right, the money will be given to most children ages 10 and younger who are born before the qualifying date of the Trump accounts, which were created earlier this year through a Republican tax and spend bill. All of this is terrible because, again, Trump wanted to pay for the entire government with tariffs, and then they created more stuff, which means that we're all going to be paying for this nonsense. The Trump accounts are designed to provide $1,000 to babies born during Donald Trump's second term in office. Children older than 10 may benefit too if the funds remain after the initial sign-up period. It's an incredibly practical and direct step to help families begin saving. I think it would be nice if we didn't think that we had to coddle people and let them make their own decisions. That's what I would very much like. Could we just go back to that, where nobody is guaranteed success in America, and there's all like we have the entire wisdom of the entire history of the human experience available in your phone. Mine's in a Faraday bag, but it's in this bag, in your computer, on the phone that you're watching or you're listening to, on that computer. The entire wisdom and collected knowledge of human experience is available to you. And we still need to do this other weird stuff. I don't like it. Michael Dell is the 11th richest person in the world, according to the Bloomberg Billionaires Index, and he has a net worth of $148 billion. Still, $6.25 billion is a very big chunk of change. So good on, again, credit where it's due. I just wish that somebody had told them, like, sir, that looks really weird. Maybe we could soften the lens a little bit or something. Or maybe we could do more voiceover than that and show more kids or something. The PR people there were not earning their money. That's all I'm going to say. But it is a great and generous thing to do. And I think that's something that Americans have always done. Philanthropy. The question is like, what does it benefit? I don't know. Who's going to be able to manage those accounts? I don't know. But I do have that question. I also am inspired by this story, which I saw, which is kind of funny. I've drawn this parallel between where we would have had normal sort of interactions with the political left and where we would have aligned with them. And it's kind of in this. I don't necessarily like leftists always want to find a government answer to a problem that has nothing to do with government. It has to do with the market. And I don't like it. But here you have it anyway. San Francisco files a landmark lawsuit. A lot of people will cheer this on, comparing ultra-processed food companies to big tobacco. The funny thing about tobacco is you don't have to smoke. The crazy thing about ultra-processed foods are you don't have to eat them. The scary thing about the internet is you don't have to be on it. Nobody makes you do any of these things, especially with your kids. You don't have to feed them garbage that's not food. It takes a little bit more work. It turns out that that's probably the end result of having women in the workplace when women are not focused on things like, home economics and deciding whether or not to save money. We used to teach that in schools. Isn't that crazy? We actually used to teach how to do all these things. Now we try to do it by lawsuit and government mandate. And I just saw this story from ABC, and I couldn't break away from good idea. But the reason that this is an idea is because people have basically ceded their agency to this government thing. which goes to those crazy leftist ladies who we heard saying they're better people than you. Their morals and their ethics are better than you. For the first time, the city attorney of San Francisco has filed a lawsuit against some of the major manufacturers of ultra-processed foods that he said have made Americans sick. I remember not 5 minutes ago under the Biden administration, they claimed that ultra-processed foods were in fact wonderful for you. You know who else probably claims that? My dear friend Julie Kelly, the GMO Roundup minister, or whatever it is. The lawsuit names the following companies: Kraft, Heinz, Mondelez, I don't know what that is, Post, the cereal company, Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola, General Mills, Nestle, Calanova, I'm not familiar with that one, Kellogg, Mars, and ConAgra. I do know those. And the city attorney said that this is a great idea, and we're going to try to go and attack people that are running these businesses, crackers and breakfast cereals, frozen dinners, and frostings, announcing legal action against these 10 different food and drink corporations. And they are going to be held accountable for unfair and deceptive practices and for violating California's unfair competition laws and public nuisance laws. You know, if you eat junk food, own it. There's times when we make that decision. Wasn't that a thing? I feel like you should be. I actually kind of miss the smoking section. Call me crazy, but I actually do. Like, there's a nostalgic smell of cigarettes where I'm like, ooh, I don't like cigarettes, but I like that people have the freedom to do it. It's even in our thumbnail today. The Cancer Man from the X-Files, right? Like, he was iconic. He was a dude making poor decisions because he'd lived his life so hard that he like smoked his cigarettes and was eventually going to die from cancer. I'm just saying, I just want people to be able to make their own bad decisions and then also own the consequences of it and not make me pay for it. Is that crazy? The alternative is having like the liberal leftist ladies give us all the worst ideas. And it makes me kind of sick that we have to deal with those things. And I'm going to play you maybe my least favorite, kind of grossest lib lady. This is a woman who did better, but still really bad plastic surgery. And then another woman who's like awful ideas, but is obviously quite a bit prettier. And they're both political commentators talking about like subtle racism. Not only do they think that the government makes better decisions and that they have better morality than you because of what they are, they also can be racist and tell brown people how they should think because they know better. This white salvific complex, which by the way is not new, it's been around for hundreds of years. They used to call it the white man's burden. Why white people need to go into Africa, need to go into Asia and go save all these like ignorant brown people, little yellow brother, little brown brother. I remember hearing about that when I was in high school and being like, people don't talk like that. They sure as hell do. In 2025, they talk like that, except they say it much more sophisticated. And they say, you're a Hernandez or a Lopez or a Martinez. How dare you be part of the deportation project? Again, this is some wild stuff. Imagine just taking the mask off in 2025 and essentially having the same position that the Ku Klux Klan had in the 1950s, in the 1940s, and not recognizing that you're the bad guy. That's what the what is it? The AWFLs, the affluent white female liberals, that's what they do. I think we should say leftists and not liberals. I actually probably can get along with the liberals. The old school liberals don't want their kids vaccinated and don't want the government telling them how they should speak. These ladies want to control all of it. They're essentially like, doing the sort of authoritarian regime that they blame the Trump on. Listen to this. I'm giving you the fair trigger warning. Enjoy.
Something else you said you'd had it with are minorities in ICE.
I mean, that connects to this, right?
Yeah.
Like, not only do you have no moral compass, and how many times have you seen these guys? They've got their masks on, so you can't see their whole face. But what you can see, it's like a brown skin tone and a dude who looks like his last name is probably like Lopez or Hernandez or something. It's like, what is wrong with you? Not only do you not have morality, apparently you don't have self-preservation. I mean, these people hate you. They hate you. They hate your family. They hate your kids. They hate your future grandkids. They don't think you belong here. You're not a quote unquote heritage American. You're never going to belong. And you're the one implementing the violent force against your own community. I just can't wrap my head around that.
Their own community? Like the own community of people that came here illegally? Do you know who are the most patriotic Americans that I've ever met, hands down? They are U.S. Border Patrol and ICE agents and HSI and DHS officers that work for CBP that are of Hispanic descent who came here legally or whose parents did. They are the most patriotic, America-loving, like wave the flag people you have ever met in your whole life. I can say that almost bar none. Rednecks, you ain't got nothing on these people because you were born here. I'm just saying. I bought my house in New Mexico from a Border Patrol agent. I live next door to a Border Patrol agent. I would go and I would drop my kids with no notice with those Border Patrol agents, and they were Mexican-American, aka American. They spoke fluent Spanish. They made outstanding salsa and chips when bring it over, and they were awesome. And they ran down illegals every single day, and they injured themselves, saving people's lives. They were studs, like hands down. And a huge majority of the people that work in that particular service do, in fact, have that brown skin. So for this lady to go out there and tell them how they think is ignoring the reality that their community is not a bunch of people who broke the damn law, because their community is law enforcement and law-abiding people. It's my community. It's your community if you're part of that tribe. If you're a gun carrier who says that there is a right and a wrong, there is a moral and an immoral, and there is a proper and an improper way to do things, then you're part of my community and my tribe, it turns out. And so are the guys that have different color skin. I was best man in a wedding. I actually performed a wedding in a civil ceremony for one of my buddies who's Hispanic. Super patriot. Dropped tons of ordnance and bombs on people downrange. Destroyed a bunch of America's enemies in the thousands. Screw you, crazy ladies. And this is why this attitude of entitlement and this nonsense and the thing that we're supposed to be able to like look at the way you look and then decide. I'm pretty sure that's what Martin Luther King Jr. was against. I'm pretty sure you're actually siding with the people that thought Martin Luther King Jr. should be dead, which was the FBI. Oh yeah, it's going to always come back to that. All right, Trump called Ilhan Omar garbage and said Somalia should go back where they come from. There's a reason why we say that, why people would ever say something like that. It's because you didn't assimilate. It's the same thing we talked about yesterday. If you refuse to join our culture, which is the dominant culture, which is the best culture, the reason I know it's the best culture is because you came from your quote unquote shithole country that Donald Trump used to call out, and you came to my country, you came to our country, and then you thought that we should do things the way that you did it in your shithole country. This is not how it works. Welcome to America. Speak English. Pick up our customs. Pray to our God if you want to be smart. If you want to fit in with those around you, be part of the people who are around you. If you want to be treated as a special, distinct little subculture, yeah, we'll put you in a little canister, but you're never going to be part of it. Or you can do what the people who came to this country, who joined up, who swore that oath of allegiance, forsake old allegiances to their old countries, whatever they were. And some of them even chose to serve in our military and serve in our law enforcement and then go enforce the laws and protect the borders of this nation. Some people did that. And they're part of my tribe. And I love living next to them. They're my favorite. They like America probably more than most of you do. If that's possible. It's, degrees of excellence kind of thing. But Ilhan Omar has basically proved to us that she thinks this is a crap country. And that we should be more like her old country, where they can wear that silly rag on her head. Which I honestly don't know what that is. That headdress is bizarre to me. It's a tied, multicolored nonsense. I always see these memes because some of my buddies who are law enforcement, including brown ones, brown skin guys, they'll send me like the funniest things, and it'll just be like, before people from European descent showed up in Africa, like the highest building that was in Africa was built by termites. And yeah, it's racially insensitive. I'm not sure it's wrong either, though, for whatever it's worth. Let me just read this story. This is from NBC News. The president who has a history of disparaging African people and migrant communities. No, he has a history of accurately quoting the factual pattern on the ground that people who come from crappy countries where they don't have any of the things we have wanted to come here for a reason, because they wanted the things that we had, and that our culture is inherently superior. To think otherwise is ridiculous. He launched into a tirade over Minnesota's Somali population at the end of the cabinet meeting. When I was thinking of the craziest things that have existed in my lifetime, that have happened in my lifetime, it is us going to war, losing people from the career field where I used to work in the Air Force, that brothers in the Army went in there and lost their lives fighting against a completely bizarre, just shit show, mess, garbage country in Somalia. And then we imported like hundreds of thousands of them, or 100,000+ of them, and put them in a little enclave in probably the least reasonable place. If you put them in New Mexico, at least would have made sense. No, that's not where we put them. We put them in freaking Minnesota. My grandmother was born in Minnesota. My dad was born in Wisconsin. They don't look anything like whatever Ilhan Omar and her people look like. And they don't sound like it. And then you end up with this clown going out and making apologies. I'll take Donald Trump calling these people garbage over this guy bowing to something because he needs to keep his job. It makes me sick. Check this guy out. This guy, I think, is the chief of police, or he's the sheriff. I'll have to double check, in Minneapolis.
Folks that are masked, that they're not sure if they're law enforcement, that they may be kidnapping people. Like, we have had those reports. I want to be clear to the community. The community should know that if you see something like that, that is legitimate, that you don't know if someone is law enforcement, you should call 911. And you should provide as much information as possible, because let's not forget, we very recently had tragedy in this state by someone who was purporting to be law enforcement. So please, let's be clear. That's something everyone should report, and that we will immediately respond to, and we will document, whether it's somebody's not sure if there's a kidnapping happening, somebody's not sure if that there's law enforcement present or not. And that's something else, that's additional policy requirements that we are implementing.
Just rolling all over yourself for a group of people that a ton of them are here illegally, and they have a bunch of them involved in the organized crime that happens in Minneapolis. That's Brian O'Hara. He's the chief of police for the Minneapolis Police Department. Where did he come from? Doesn't sound like he's from Minneapolis. No, he came from Newark, New Jersey, which is a brilliant accidental segue into our final kind of piece where we're going to talk about this Kash Patel interview and some of the really fun inside baseball. If you guys have been holding on for it, I've got some stuff we're going to dish, and Newark, New Jersey actually features fairly prominently in it. Isn't it interesting that they had to get that guy to come in there and do that job, to lay down and apologize to a community of people that's full of those who should be the most grateful for being here? And instead, he's like, call the police if you think that the federal agents are doing the thing. The federal agents are wearing things that say ICE and ERO. They're wearing body armor. They're not doing like black mask jump out squads and doing kidnappings. Could you fake that? I suppose you could. It's a federal crime. I don't think it's happening very much. It's certainly not happening nearly as much as the actual arrests that are going on. And I've got friends that are doing that arrest stuff. It's where most of the money of the FBI is going right now. All right. So that's fun. We're going to do the Kash Patel interview thing. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything else on there. Oh, I did have one other story. We're going to start with, there was a drunken raccoon that was found in a liquor store in the bathroom. Like, I don't know how this made it to the top of the ABC news pile, but I would be remiss in not reporting on this. A drunk raccoon was found passed out at a liquor store bathroom, and it was released into the wild after sobering up. This is the America I want to live in. I want this to be the lead story. It was in Virginia, of all places. In Hanover County, the Animal Protection found a masked bandit who had ransacked shelves, drank multiple types of alcohol, and then rolled into a toilet and blacked out. And they have a picture of a raccoon, a drunken raccoon. That is a much more fun story than almost all the other things. After a few hours of sleep and zero signs of injury, other than maybe a hangover and poor life choices, he was released back into the wild, hopefully having learned that breaking and entering is not the answer, said this Facebook post, and the picture of this goofy-ass raccoon. That's about how serious our federal law enforcement is right now with the people that are running it. So there you go. That was a transition. I don't know why I put that on there, but I couldn't help it. I just thought that was fun. All right, here we go. So you heard earlier that we were talking about a rudderless ship, and you've heard that there was some stories about a jet. You may not have seen all the things that were discussed, and I'm going to give you what you missed. Patel is doing a media tour, a desperate media tour, to try to make excuses. He's going to the most friendly outlets possible. He went to Epoch Times, which used to pay him. He went to Catherine Herridge. I don't know if they promised her something like an exclusive in the future, but that's kind of what happened previously. He had that with Megyn Kelly, where they had this real favorable interview, and then she got the... She either got I think she got the trans shooter manifesto from Nashville first, even though other people had FOIA'd it. And then she got this required sit down fluff piece. This is the quid pro quo access journalism. So I don't know what Catherine Herridge got, if anything, but it looked super gentle. This is what she said. This is the jet story. And then I'm going to show you Laura Ingram's doing everything he can. And he's actually slowly self-incriminating, because the thing that people are pissed off at is, you took the jet in the middle of a government shutdown after saying the exact opposite. We just wanted you to keep your word. Nobody cares if you were to fly around or take vacation days. We care that you're taking a $60 million aircraft and you know how much it costs us. Don't act like it's cheap. Don't act like you're saving us money, you freaking fraud. Okay, sorry, that's enough of that. Here's Catherine.
Let's talk about the jet. You flew on a Department of Justice jet to visit your girlfriend, Alexis Wilkins, performing at an event at State College. Were any rules broken?
No. And I'm shocked that people would, well, I guess I'm not shocked anymore. Mm-hmm. This FBI, under my leadership, changed the FBI plane use requirements. so that we could save the taxpayer money. I am the only director to ever mandate the use of government airfields. The prior...
It's not about government airfields. It's about the money of using the damn plane. Oh, yeah, you used to know that.
Where, and I'm not saying take all their funding. I'm not the defund everything guy. I'm just saying Chris Wray doesn't need a government-funded G5 jet to go to vacation. Maybe we ground that plane. $15,000 every time it takes off. Just a thought.
Minimum.
That minimum voice, that's Glenn Beck when he was talking. That was in 2023. So, in fairness, because someone did point this out to me the other day, and I think this is actually reasonable. He did say that he should defund Chris Wray's jet and not his own. So there is that. I mean, hypocrisy springs eternal in the federal government. He was asked the same question about the jet when he was sitting and talking to Laura Ingraham. And I want to make sure that I have the right clip lined up so I don't accidentally do this. Here we go. Let's talk about... I'm digging through my files. Can you tell? Oh, where's my jet question? Stand by. We're going to find it. There it is. I think this is it. This is the only problem with a live show is that I actually don't have that jet thing. All right, hold on. I'll pull it up. He got a chance to try to excuse this behavior, and it feels like he actually self-incriminated more. Call me crazy, but I feel like he's admitted more things in this particular clip.
And the Democrats are also, Mr. Director, supposedly going to investigate your use of the FBI jet, because they're claiming you've commandeered it for personal joyrides, going to a wrestling event, I guess, for your girlfriend. Is that true? And if so, if the Biden team did something like that, if it was true, I'd probably be hitting them tonight on television. But
can I just stop right there for 1 second? Is it true if Biden had done it or the Biden team did it, I would be wrecking them on TV? That's all true. Yeah, of course. He did use the jet for those things. He's going to pivot. She's trying to basically soften the blow and pre-bunk. This is the Sean Hannity tactic. The thing that they should be absolutely outraged by, which is that he's a hypocrite. And he used to go and do the exact same thing against the other side. Isn't that fun?
I thought I'd give you a chance to respond to that drive-by.
Yeah. It's simple. The FBI director, all FBI directors are required users of the FBI plane. They don't let me fly commercially. But my predecessors wasted millions of dollars because they were too lazy to drive an extra 20 minutes and go to Andrews Air Force Base. They used...
I still don't understand this one. You don't have to fly it to Andrews Air Force Base. The plane lives out in Manassas. It's a 45-minute drive from DC. You can just drive it. I used to do it all the time. Oh, how do you know? Because I literally used to drive that. That's where my office was next to where the plane was. What is he talking about? I make it fly an additional flight that's to a military aircraft so we don't spend $2,500 on a runway fee at Reagan DCA. He's saying now in this interview, I'm a mandated flyer. What are the consequences and penalties if he doesn't fly on the thing? What if he takes commercial? What if he flies first class? Then what? Oh, nothing? Okay, got it. Who would enforce it? Who would come after the FBI director if he chose to fly and live up and be a man of principles, like you see other cabinet secretaries doing, like you see other people who are in federal law enforcement at high levels? You feel like, why? What would happen? Nothing. So he's making this claim, and now he's going to go out there and pivot. And he actually does say the worst thing, which is that I'm pretty confident he's admitting that he took his girlfriend on this thing all the time, which is what we were all upset about. She's not even your wife, dude. FBI directors have lost their jobs over this. The 90s are calling. Bill Sessions is a little bit upset about this nonsense answer.
DC Reagan National as their personal hub, costing the taxpayer $4 million. I shut that policy off and mandated the use of government airfields. I've also used the airplane less than my prior two predecessors. And yes, I'm entitled to a personal life just like my other agency had counterparts with their partners. So do I support my girlfriend? Absolutely. And do I take trips with her? Absolutely. But when they're talking about raid jackets and Velcro and FBI plane use, they are not talking about the facts because they know this FBI is succeeding in ways prior leadership failed. And those cronies will always stick together and, of course, band together with their enemies to come in and attack us. And our mission here is to protect the American people. Let me tell you one more stat that the American people are going to love. This FBI is on course to deliver the lowest murder rate in modern history by double digits. The lowest murder rate in modern history by double digits. That's
Amazing.
Because we're out there in cities like Memphis leading the charge, in places like St. Louis and Miami and New York and elsewhere across the country.
Follow-up question, Director Patel. Does the FBI, generally speaking, investigate murder? And does the DOJ, generally speaking, prosecute people for murder? Oh, no, they don't. Oh, murder is a local situation and it's under state law only? Homicide is actually not, generally speaking, a federal crime? Oh, got it. I paused it on the right spot. Look at Laura Ingram's face. She's like, ugh, that's not real. I remember covering the story about the Biden administration lying about crime stats. Stats are a really good way. What do they say? There's lies, there's damn lies, and there's statistics. This guy leans on statistics so aggressively, which is worse than a damn lie as far as I can tell. Anyway, it's just kind of fun. He's doing that. So at least we got the Epstein files, right? I mean, that's what this was always the first sort of thing that most people saw. They didn't realize the stuff that I was seeing. The issue is the Epstein files. So we're going to get those. Let's softball that question as soft as we can make it.
Mr. Director, our viewers also are just, they're chomping at the bit on why it took the Epstein files so long to be released. Any regrets there? Was that an unforced error? Just should we have gotten them out earlier? Just get them all out there? Just thought I'd give you a chance to react to that.
Yeah, look, this FBI has produced 40,000 pages of documents to Congress. To put that in comparison, Wray put out 13,000 in 7 years, and Comey put out 3,000. We're committed to transparency. We're putting out as much as we can that is lawful and that is not prohibited by court orders. And those are the things the DOJ is fighting still with judges in court to make sure we can reveal everything without breaking the law. And that's what we're committed to doing. We're doing it as fast as we can, and we're going to keep doing it, not just on this, but you know about Arctic Frost because of this FBI's discovery of the illegal surveillance of senators and staffers. You know about Russiagate because of mine and Devin's work from back in day. And we're going to continue those investigations. And you bet we have ongoing criminal investigations on both those fronts because the guy who launched Russiagate, me as a senior staffer back in House Intel, is now the director of the FBI. And I'm not going to end this mission without destroying and leveling the full weaponization that occurred before I got here.
I don't believe anything you just said. You know why? Because the statute of limitations passed on most of those things. And the best you did was a freaking indictment of Comey for perjury. And then it got thrown out. And now you're appealing it. And you're hoping that you're going to get it back. Because you technically don't do things well. He produced 40,000 pages of transparency, folks. 40,000 pages. Were any of them the Epstein files that people were looking at? No, they were not. So how about those Epstein files? Yeah, we've given 40,000 pages to Congress of not the Epstein files. That was his answer. Seriously. Kind of like this. They have this history of not answering that. I don't know if they're told they can't answer it or what. Here's Sean Hannity doing the Laura Ingram, or Laura Ingram doing the Sean Hannity, and our favorite, Deputy Dan, not answering the question. I just love it when people don't answer the question. It's my favorite.
And where is the Epstein files? You have been very clear that there's going to be video evidence that proves that Epstein killed himself, and I've known you long enough. If you say it, I believe you, and I know it'll be forthcoming. Explain the priority since you have gotten in this position, and Kash has gotten in his position, and Pam has gotten in her position, and maybe why this didn't go as quickly as some people anticipated.
Well, I lost you a little bit, but I assume you can hear me, so I'm just going to answer your question.
I can hear you, yeah.
There has been, let me get to this first. I had a graduation ceremony this morning down in Quantico with a class of new agents, and I looked every one of them in the eye, shook their hands. I said, listen, you're going to do this for us. You're going to protect the homeland, and you're going to go bring me bad guys. You understand? I said, there's no one coming to save us. The Marvel Avengers ain't coming. It is us. We are in charge. We have the counterterrorism portfolio. This president and this attorney general, they have a different view than we've had in the past of the FBI. This is very important. Your audience understands this. The FBI in the past focused on large enterprise cases. You know, the Al Capone, John Gotti, KSM, Al-Qaeda types. And we are still and always going to do that. But there's a parallel track. This president also sees this border problem as a solvable problem. Now, think about this, Sean. That never happens in police science and criminology. No one...
Am I crazy? Did I just totally miss the answer? Where was the answer there? Huh. And we're not going to do big investigations. It's literally the reason why the FBI is called the Federal Bureau of Investigations. We're not going to do those? Okay. Got it. Noted. I don't understand what that answer had to do with anything. It doesn't make any sense. Let's talk about the real serious stuff. Did Kash Patel get a jacket, a raid jacket from a lady? in Salt Lake City, Utah, as I was told weeks ago. The case of the missing medium-sized jacket, it's not just real, it's bureau-wide. It's everywhere. Everyone knows this is a true story because he kept it. He took a jacket from a chick like out of the academy, and then he held onto it because he was wearing it and he went home with it. And the patches from the SWAT thing, I didn't know that previously, but of course that's where he got the SWAT patches. I was trying to figure out why he had SWAT patches on his arms. I'm like, what the shit is he doing? I know he wears a WFO SWAT hat. Why is he wearing the SWAT patches? Oh, because he wanted something on there. Because in his mind, he's very operator. And that's where the operator patches go. They go over there. He should have got an American flag on one side or something else. I used to have patches on my, not my Ray jacket, but on my combat shirt when I used to work. They were things that I earned from going through courses, training as a tactical medic. It said FBI tactical paramedic on there. There's not very many of those guys that had that patch. You know, something that like meant something to me because I went through some training with some people that I respected. Anyway, at least Laura Ingram's going to get to the bottom of this story.
You mentioned the thing about the patches and the gossipy stuff, which I know you laughed it off on Twitter, but on X. But they're saying, oh, he refused to get off the plane in Utah after Charlie Kirk's assassination because he wanted a better fitting FBI raid jacket. Is that true? And does fashion really make the man, Kash?
It's 100% false. As you know, look, Laura, sadly, I was at 9/11 at Ground Zero in New York City on 9/11 because I was a White House representative honoring those victims and their names being read. You are very familiar with that. Then we made the immediate decision after Charlie got shot in the neck to fly to Utah unexpectedly to lead the manhunt to find the perpetrator in less than 33 hours because the FBI cut video, put it out in a press conference, and these people are worried about what I was wearing and what patches I was wearing. I was honoring my men and women at the FBI. One of my agents handed me a jacket and said, hey, boss, you should probably wear this. We're going into the command center. I said I'd be honored to wear that. And then another one handed me the SWAT team badge of the unit that was protecting the area where Charlie was assassinated. I wore that with pride. These people can talk about my appearances all they want, but look at the results. The FBI, this FBI, my FBI, the one that Dan and I are building here under President Trump, is succeeding in ways that no FBI has ever done so before. So the institutionalists and the anonymous reporters from the swamp DC bureaucracy are the ones we are crushing. And that's how I know we're winning. And if Eric Swalwell wants to come online and talk about what jacket size I wear, I'm happy to send him a women's medium so him and Fang Fang can go out again.
This man has no business being in a government role with any authority. He's a freaking child. One, that's a complete bullshit story. That is completely made up. I wanted to go in there, hey, boss, you should probably wear this. Nobody says that. You know why? Nobody gives a shit how you're dressed. Nobody in the FBI would think that way. Because people in the FBI show up in plaid shirts all the time. Like, it's not a dress and appearance type place. It's certainly not out in Utah. Hey, you better wear the size medium jacket. No, that's not what happened. The word went out. My anonymous sources, who've been working in the Bureau for literally decades, and who are actually good people, who have known for over a decade, they confirm this. So again, just like all FBI sources, which are notified by an S number, the letter S, and then like some digits after it, they're all anonymous too. But the people who get them know it. Why am I saying it? Because I know it's true. I know that to be a fact. Sometimes we have sarcasm here. Sometimes we have humor. Sometimes we know factually that this is what's going on. I told you guys I was going to do a Newark subway, and this is or not subway, segue. This is the Newark segue. I found out yesterday, confirmed by multiple sources. Again, anonymous to you, but not to me. People I know, people I trust, people I've trusted long before I ever got out of the FBI because they were my friends when I was there. I found out that they cannot get people to take the special agent in charge of field office's job. They can't do it. They're unable to get people to put their hand up and say, do you want a promotion? Do you want more money and bonuses? Do you want to go be the top person in a field office, which is one of the most honored positions that you could be in, theoretically, if you thought the FBI was honorable. You know why they won't do it? Because they jump off the GS pay scale. As a GS 15, you have tenure, you have protections, you are a fully vested FBI employee. When you go from GS 15 to a special agent in charge of a field office, you become an SES. I think it's an SES 5. The scale is backwards. I think SES 1 is the highest paid SES and SES 5 is the lowest. You jump onto that SES scale, you now have a 1-year probationary period where you can be removed for no reason at all and fired. So nobody is taking that job if they don't have 20 years and they're over 50 years old so that they can go retire right away. That's why. They had to take 2 people from Newark out in New Jersey and forced them to go from GS-15s to go do that SES job because they could not get someone to get into the senior executive service voluntarily. And we found out yesterday, and it took me seconds to confirm this, that the crown jewel of the FBI, which is the Criminal Investigation Division, they were unable to get a single applicant for the assistant director job. That would be a number 4 in the FBI role. Director, deputy director, associate deputy director, and then now they have ADs, assistant directors. The assistant director of the branch that handles criminal investigations is the top most coveted job for criminal investigators. If your job is 1811 criminal investigator, you would want to be the top person if you're so inclined. They got 0 applications for that job. And the last guy who held the number 3 role got booed off the stage and retired by all the SES underneath him. Because there is so much hatred for the way that these guys are running it. And it's not because they're killing it and they're doing a great job. It's because they are shit at managing this agency. And so he's out there talking about patches and Fang Fang. Do you guys even realize that the Fang Fang story with Eric Swalwell, who I have no love for, the Fang Fang story predates him being in national office. It's not even that big of a deal. Like, yeah, he makes bad choices. Yeah, he wants to represent California. Eric Swalwell, I would say in a fist fight, probably wipes the floor with Kash Patel. I watched him do that bench press just like you guys did, and he was easily doing like 135. I'm sure he puts up 225 or more. And you don't have to like it. I'm just saying, like, Eric Swalwell is more of a man than Patel is. Pretty easily. Even if he did sleep with a Chinese spy. Like, you don't have to like the guy. You don't have to like his behavior to recognize that that story is used as a talking point when it's not nearly as powerful as you think it is. How about the fact that you cannot get people to take the most coveted job in your agency because you suck so badly that they don't want to be smeared with the stink of what you do? And that's what's happening right now in today's FBI. That's what the FBI is about. So a guy who doesn't understand that all sources are anonymous inside the Bureau and that the people who are actually trying to push are giving him a nudge saying, hey, your leadership is lacking. And it is apparent. They didn't gut the culture of the FBI intentionally. They accidentally destroyed it, which borderline is hysterical because the people that work in that senior executive service, that is your top level deep state sort of band, they're so scared of taking a job that they know that they will suck at that they don't want to do it. It's not like an intentional win. It's just that the top is so incompetent that they're going to get screwed on it. So they've actually done something that is borderline hilarious to me. They have accidentally turned the people that are the worst in the FBI into a scared bunch of people, children that will not take the next job. Can you imagine if everything in your life for the last 10 or 12 or 15 years was geared toward promoting and suddenly you were scared to promote because you knew that the promotion was going to be basically a death sentence for the rest of your career? That's where these people are at. It's hysterical to be on the outside of it. But it's utterly unserious to hear him go on Fox News and talk about jackets and patches and we're doing the great work and all this other stuff. No, buddy. You suck. And everyone knows it. And I keep getting phone calls from people I haven't talked to in literally years. And they're like, thank God you're out there saying this stuff because nobody else understands how bad this is and how stupid it is. And the real danger is they're still going to let terrorists through. 100% they're going to let terrorists through. That's what they're going to do. What else would they do? He goes on and talks about this discussion about the terrorist investigation into Afghans. By the way, they could have handled this a long time ago. They didn't. So let's do the Afghan terrorism thing because that's also pretty bad. Of course, he does the prayers. Who's he praying to? Remember, says one thing, tries to put it in your head. It's not probably what you think.
Where does this investigation tonight stand?
Well, first and foremost, our prayers to the family of the fallen soldier and our prayers to the family of hopefully this individual who continues to recover. This is a sprawling international terrorism investigation that the FBI is leading out on, and we are making sure to work with our interagency partners, and I've already issued dozens of pieces of legal processes, dozens of devices, already hit 2 houses and interviewed many individuals associated with the subject, and that investigation is going to continue on to anyone and everyone this person ever spoke to. We're not going to leave any stone unturned. We're going to collect the evidence. We're going to hand it off to our partners at DOJ and make sure he's prosecuted to the full extent of the law, and anyone else that was responsible for this vicious, heinous attack will be held to the same account.
I just heard that he said he served legal process. Does anyone understand that the FBI director doesn't do that? This is the problem with people who are cosplaying. They start actually believing the role that they're in. They start thinking that the thing that they're doing actually is the thing that they're talking about doing. This is a Trump administration crisis. Overpromise, underdeliver. The only thing we wanted you to do was de-weaponize the agency, not let them go after people who were doing things that were totally reasonable, like running a crisis pregnancy center or being a freaking radical traditionalist Catholic who just wants to see the Latin Mass, or maybe having some kids and maybe not wanting to get a COVID shot, like normal things that we called out. And rather than de-weaponizing this agency, what they've done is they've turned it into a morass and a shit show where everybody is running for cover, which is sort of funny to watch from the outside. But it's just going to regain itself with more anger, and these guys are going to end up in prison or worse. They're going to be the ones who get the SWAT team kicking through their door. And if they think that they're going to get a blanket pardon for everything, I promise you they will find something else. We're talking about the FBI here. Did it seem like policies and laws stopped them from going after people previously? Does anyone actually think that there's protection in federal law when the agency that has the ability to spy on you can go out there? They went after the freaking sitting president. And then they waited and they kicked down his door after he got out of office. These guys are playing an unserious, like, social media tit for tat game with Eric Swalwell. And real serious, dangerous actors are going to be stepping into that space because they've created a void and they've created animosity. So even the people that would otherwise be on their side are not. Just shame on you, man. Shame on your stupidity. It's really hard. Luckily, Fox News is handling real serious business, and this is one of the last things we'll cover in order to make sure that we know how serious things are and how bad things are in the Caribbean, and we're going to talk about Mark Kelly and aliens. I'm not kidding. Aliens are now on Fox News.
Over the last several weeks, we've brought to you interviews with a UFO whistleblower, a director who spoke with dozens of officials about possible secret government programs, and tonight, Brett Baer takes a closer look at some of those claims and speaks with a UAP researcher about what they are calling a government cover-up.
What?
Thanks, Aisha. Lawmakers from both sides of the aisle.
Hold on. Wait, the government is covering up aliens? How long have we been talking about this? He says it with a straight face. He's like, thanks, Sasha, here we go.
And other government officials believe they should know more about unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAPs. Tonight we look at reports on some of the secret government programs that are being alleged.
This is so secret. There have been very few people in our entire government that have been allowed or provided access to it.
A new documentary featuring former and current officials from across the federal government is attempting to connect the dots on secret knowledge of UAPs.
This is the biggest discovery in human history.
CIA officials, DIA officials, naval intelligence officials, the list goes on and on.
I served as the 4th Director of National Intelligence.
Director of Aviation Security in the National Security Council.
1-star Admiral after 32 years of service.
Former Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet served as the Navy's chief oceanographer and meteorologist, and as acting administrator of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Why'd you take part in that? And of the voices in there, are you convinced that these are credible folks that are really coming forward for the first time?
All those folks are credible, Brett. They're all colleagues of mine. I've worked with them for years. This is going to change the arc of human history. The fact...
Guys, I feel like people have known this for a really long time. This is not new. Why are we breaking this in a special report? Now I feel like you're lying to me because it's on Fox News and everything else you guys do there is a lie. You guys run cover for things. So what the hell are they covering up? I don't know. I'm just telling you, I listened to the PSYOP guy talk about it. And this sounds like we are now going to take the people who lie to you at the highest level to the most unalert people. And they're going to be like, honey, aliens are real. Like, I cannot fathom that they thought this goes over well. There's decades of people that are doing this. And now they're calling it UAP researchers like it's something that they would have not scoffed at a few weeks ago.
That we're not alone in the universe and that higher order non-human intelligences are visiting us and interacting with us, whose intent we really are unsure of still. That's just mind-blowing.
Not everyone is convinced by the film. The New York Times writes the claims are unprovable, and Variety calls it inconclusive. For us to be comfortable doing stories about it, we have to believe that these documents and these experts that we're talking to are telling us the right thing. How do you...
Brett Baer only does stories on credible things. That's why he did the sit-down interview with Chris Ray. That's why he's now talking about UFOs. All right. Apparently there's higher level beings out there in the universe. Some of us actually believe that because unlike the whatever this is, we believe in the guy that's closer to me. So yeah, there is probably a higher level being out there. That's kind of like the whole point of what this country is all about. That's what I got for today. I'm living in a silly world where we have unserious people doing the most serious things. And then we have a population of folks that I guess they just want that because they still have a bigger audience. There's still a huge audience of people that listened to the lies that were fed about aliens or the FBI or government interactions, or you take your pick, and they all were like, oh, now I feel good. Hence the opening of this podcast, which says comforting lies. There's a big line and a big market for comforting lies. When we talk about things that are true and a little bit more uncomfortable, you're always going to narrow down and whittle it down. So if you guys want to support us, make sure you guys hit the like button over on all the places where you're listening. If you're watching on Rumble, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on X, like it, subscribe. We'll continue to grow bit by bit, organically. We don't pay for bots here or anything else. You're always going to see real views and not fake views or whatever the heck that is. If you want to go ahead and support us on the audio platform, if you're just listening only, go to Spotify, KyleSerafinshow.com. You will get a better product because you can swap between and see some of the funny stuff, including the visuals that you might want to see. If you want to support the program financially and be part of our locals community, you can do that at KyleSerafin.com. I think it's like $5 a month. And yeah, you can be part of the call-in show. Wherever you listen, subscribe. Make sure you guys are sharing with a friend if you are so inclined. Drop a comment in the YouTube section. Drop a comment over on Rumble. Boost us up in the algo. Yeah. We'll go right there between the cats pictures and the Danger Riot videos. Then you'll find a little bit of Kyle Serafin Show. Thanks for being part of the program. I will leave you with something kind of funny. That higher being that we were hearing about. What happens if you try to talk to God and you're ADD? It's a real thing. Some of you guys actually have this problem. This will hit home for some people. Not for me.
Father God, I just want to pray to you, Lord.
Oh, he's praying.
Because you are so good, Lord. Like Southern Heat barbecue chips with Diet Coke.
What?
And you know what's interesting? Did you know that Genghis Khan is not his actual name? It's Temujin.
What are you talking about?
Well, I was actually contemplating this for a while. You know when like white girls eat a salad or anything and they go like... And it's really annoying. Do you think you can make that a sin? Are you riffing? Go back to praying. My bad, you're right. Can I get another Diet Coke? That's not what I meant. I meant like an actual prayer when you're like, I don't even know anymore. And I'm God. Thanks. Oh, now I remember what I wanted to talk to you about.
Where did you get that? Wait, did I get, okay, good. What did you want? What?
The new Taylor Swift album. Did you hear it? It's kind of soft, right? Not her best work. Yeah, agreed.
Even God knows that Taylor Swift is slipping, apparently. I've never listened to Taylor Swift, so I don't know. Anyway, that's what I got for you guys. Hope you have a great day on this Wednesday. That was a little weird to send you off, but I think it's about right. Talk to you soon. Have a good one.
Thanks for listening to The Kyle Serafin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Serafin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram at Kyle Serafin.